Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I recently made Golden Ridge a pick of mine, and the reason I did is because they are in Newfoundland, right by Newfound Gold. And what really stood off the page when I was reading their recent drilling was, you see up where Newfound Gold has made their discoveries, there's a tight pack of gold occurrences. And then you look down at Golden Ridge, or right at the big fault there, the Appleton Fault. And then you look at Golden Ridge, and right at the Appleton Fault on their claims, they've got this tight packed area with gold occurrence as well. And I've watched a lot of Newfoundland gold explorers, and I think that these guys might be onto something very exciting. So I made him a pick, and now I've got Mike Blady, who's the CEO of the company, on to talk the Golden Ridge story. Thanks a lot for joining me, Mike.
Hey, Allan, thanks for having me. My pleasure.
So in that gold occurrence map that I'm talking about was in your news release that you talked about your drilling. Obviously that many gold occurrences had to get you guys pretty excited, sitting right on the Appleton Fault.
Yeah, it sure did. And, you know, it all started with just one gold occurrence about 3 years ago. Previously, before we picked up the Williams property, it was in another junior company. I believe it was White Metal, and they made the original discovery. And the original discovery was made when the Newfoundland power utility or authority was putting in a new power line that cross-cut the Williams property. Almost right through the middle of the project. And when they cleared the power line area, there was a bunch of quartz float on the road. So Roland and Eddie Quinlan, who were the original stakers of the Williams property, they walked that road and they picked up a bunch of quartz float, and, you know, lo and behold, one of the samples they picked up ran about 53 grams gold, and that was kind of the origins of the Williams property.
And since then, you guys went in there with a detailed sampling program?
Yeah, so we've done full regional geochem and some airborne mag on the property. That was in, I guess, 2020, the first year we had the project. In 2021, we came back and we did infill, more detailed soil sampling. So areas where we had good indications of gold mineralization, we tightened up the grid to 25 by 25 meter grid, which really helped us focus in on the targeting and the gold occurrences that were there. And then late in 2021, we did a bunch of trenching. So we did about 50 trenches, not on every part of the property we wanted to, but definitely on our highest priority targets.
So that's not just picking up some float or soils, that's cutting into the rock and getting a good rock sample out of that.
Yeah, getting down to bedrock where we could. You know, I would say we managed to get to bedrock in about 60 to 70% of our trenches. And then, yeah, sampled them with proper channel saw and sent them off to the lab. And between the geochem, the geophysics, kind of the known mineralization and the trends in the area, we were able to put together a drill program in 2022.
And so when we were preparing to do this show, you had mentioned that the importance of this secondary faulting off of that Appleton Fault, because that also seems to be an important thing at, well, not just at Newfound Gold, but in any orogenic gold system.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. You know, if you look at any of Newfound's NFG's models or long sections, you'll see it's not just concentrated along the Appleton in the hanging wall or the footwall. It's a lot of little splays and different types of faulting and folding that are creating, and also the play between ductile folding and faulting and brittle faulting, and kind of that interconnectedness. And we're seeing the same thing at the Williams, where we're getting into these folded areas with some brittle deformation, ductile deformation, and we're looking for similar things that they're seeing that help trap the gold, right? On a main fault structure, a regional fault structure, normally there's too much room to adequately trap enough gold to make a significant discovery or build a mine. You got to look at these kind of second order and third order faults.
And for the non-geo out there that's following this interview, the regional fault, the Big Appleton fault, it's like a crack in the earth that allows those gold-bearing fluids to make their way up to surface. And the secondary faulting also becomes an important conduit to that gold-bearing fluids to make their way up to surface. Did I get that part of the story right, Mike?
You did a pretty good job there. You know, with any fault, there's like you said, there's not only you're getting that space, but you're also getting movement, right? So you can get movement that's going straight up, straight down, side to side. You can get a bunch of different movement types. And when you're getting that grinding and that movement, that's also helping to create other smaller order faults in the rocks that are next door or immediately adjacent to the fault. And typically those are the structures that do the best job at trapping mineralization, i.e. gold in our case.
And so it's that big fault that creates the secondary faulting, and then you've got even better conduit for those fluids, path of least resistance, if you will, to make their way up closer to surface.
Yep, and the story gets more complex than that. There's also, you know, just because a faulting event happened many hundreds of millions of years ago, it's constantly happening. That Earth is in this constant battle against itself. So you're getting, you know, new faults forming, new folding, new depositions, new erosions. So it's really neat to try and unwind the history of how everything got to where it is at this current state. And
that complex structural story is exactly what you see at the Swan Zone at the at Fosterville mine. And there's some maps going around. I think people can Google it, but you see that same sort of thing, a lot of cross faulting and structural complexity that's important for those fluids. So in this case, complex is good.
Yeah, it is. And you know, with the Williams, we're at a bit of a different point, because we have all these really great gold anomalies in the work we've done up to date. And without any drilling, we don't really have a very detailed structural model to work off of yet. So how do you start working on a structural model? Well, you drill a bunch of holes and then you start piecing together all the data. So that's the part we're at now, which is quite a fun and exciting part to be at.
So you're with the Truth Machine, you're learning about the faulting, the cracks below the surface.
Yep, like we have a nice 2D map, a topo map with everything, and now we're trying to make that map add that third dimension and really try and chase and see where everything's going and what's happening in the subsurface.
Because of course at surface you've got all these occurrences, but you'll also have some evidence of the structures that are below.
You sure can. Yeah, you can see faulting and various other structural processes happening at the surface, and now we're trying to understand what's going on in that third dimension at depth.
So you've got that structural story. That's one tick off the box. And the gold occurrences, that really stood out to me, Mike, because that concentration of gold mineralization at surface up at Newfoundland is exactly where they found all of these tremendous zones that they found. And you have the same story on your property.
Yep, and they've also, Newfound and Golden Ridge, we've been working fairly closely together, just on exploration as well, because Newfound actually has an exploration camp just south of the Williams property, and that's for their South Queensway project, obviously, where you can see more gold occurrences if you're looking at the gold occurrence map to the south of our project. So Newfound did a similar thing to what we did a few years ago, and they did a very in-depth geochemistry campaign down there, and they did just drill also around the same time we did last year. I think they just put that news out that they had completed their drilling for the year anyways at South Queensway. So, there's no shortage of gold occurrences in that area. I guess the question is, how much gold is actually there, right? So that's always what it boils down to.
But the difference is that between sporadic gold mineralization and concentration of gold occurrences, I don't think that there's that same story all the way along the Appleton Fault. There seems to be where Keats and Maine and Lotto and all those are, then down where you are, and then probably south of that.
Yeah, and there's probably a multitude of reasons why that is. We think that we're kind of situated on somewhat of a bend in the main structure in the Appleton Fault, and those kind of bends or zags or offsets of the fault can open up additional space to create more fluid flow and hopefully more mineral deposition. So, we think we have a fairly well endowed piece of that fault. And we got to put out our results and continue on, because
it's kind of
we
like
weren't even,
if you
we weren't even,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. We weren't even able to get to the main discovery that's up by the power line. So, that's still something we have to do in 2023, which, has always been one of our top 3 targets. But we were working more to the east along the main road that kind of connects to the South Queensway camp.
So just for the non-geologist again, what Mike was explaining there about bends is, if you think about holding a metal bar and you were moving it a lot, at one point you would have it getting much hotter. And it's that area inside of one of these faults that the bends or the hinges or the splays are where that rock gets even more well prepared for the gold fluids to make their way up to surface.
That's correct. And there's a lot of change in the actual topography as well in this area of the world to the south of Gander here, more so than I thought before I showed up on the project 3 years ago. So there's we're probably sitting about 150, 200 meters below the surface of where the Keats zone is, or sorry, above the surface.
Okay.
So there's, and that's going to change in between the 35 kilometers roughly in between the two areas of interest, right? So sometimes the fault is a lot deeper. That gold is going to be further down from surface. Sometimes it daylights, like we call it, where it's, you can see it or you can trace it at surface. So that's also something to keep in mind with these systems. So potentially we're at a point where it's slightly nearer the surface than some of the other locations along the fault, but we still don't have enough information to know that for sure.
So elevation or Mother Nature might be helping you save 100 meters of drilling here and there.
Yeah, possibly. Well, I think our deepest hole is about 2.25, maybe 250 meters on this last program. So you look at some of the other companies in the area, Lab Gold, Exploits, I'm seeing them drill substantially deeper holes than what we've been drilling. And that's not to say that there isn't anything deeper on our project, but that's been kind of the depth we've needed to get to get the information that we want, right? So we've been seeing well altered and quartz carbonate bearing core. So we're happy with that because we got a lot of areas to test. So less meters per hole, the more we can test.
And that's another very exciting thing about orogenic gold systems is that they're structurally controlled in these big cracks that the mineralization can continue for thousands of meters below the surface. And the way that you're often going to find fine grain gold nearer the surface, and then as you get deeper and closer to the heat engine, you'll get more coarse gold. But the first thing that I watch for in these kind of systems is when you get into some high grade to bonanza grade. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for you, Mike, that you guys follow that path to success of a explorer in an orogenic gold system.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. And we should have some results out very soon here. And let the truth machine work, I guess, is what it comes down to.
You got that right. So just to give an overview, you guys, how many holes did you guys complete?
So we drilled 29 holes in 2022, 4,185 meters, so just under 4,200 meters. And we just got the last 5 holes off to the lab for analysis. So we had shut down for the holidays, and then winter finally decided to hit Newfoundland in January, early February. So it was a bit of a slow go to log and dig out all the frozen core, but we got those all done. And so everything's in the lab now.
So that's a pretty big scout drill program you didn't just 1 or 2 hole scout drill there. You got a significant amount of holes in the ground.
Allan, when I raise money from investors, I want to put that money where it's going to do the most benefit. And to me, that's always in the ground.
Yeah, well, and in these kind of systems, well, any important system, you want to do it right. And sort of 1 or 2 holes doesn't really give you much of a snapshot below ground. So you guys did a hell of a good job there.
One of the things that we learned when we first came over to Newfoundland from British Columbia is that Newfoundland is a very well minerally endowed province. The reason there hasn't been more discoveries and more mines is because people typically ran out of money, or they didn't do enough drilling, or it was too shallow. And that's exactly what Newfound Gold proved to the market and to the world. The Keat Zone has been known about since the 60s. And you could go there, and there were stories. People would go there on the weekend and they'd bang around and they'd find a piece of quartz with a little fleck of gold. And it was known for years and years and years. But everyone that ever had that property and drilled it or put exploration dollars into the ground, they never quite did enough to unlock the potential of that. So, Newfound Gold is showing that if you have the right funding, you have the right people, you can make things happen here. And we're hoping to follow in their footsteps.
Well, you seem to be on your way in a very good way with those gold occurrences, the complex faulting, and you got after it with a pretty significant scout drilling program.
Yeah, it was good. You know, it was interesting drilling in 2022. We had some forest fires in the area, which is quite
Oh.
rare for out there. So we had to shut down for a few weeks due to fires to let the fire service do their work unencumbered by us. And yeah, we're looking forward to getting back in 2023, getting these results out, getting our plan, our budget together for the new year, and going back and attacking the project aggressively.
You know, Mike, I've been in this business for 30 years and I'm pretty good at spotting geological talent, and I'm pretty impressed with what you got, the work you guys have done. What's your background?
I'm a scientist by background, so I have two science degrees. One's in geology. So I've always had a love for exploration. I had an exploration services business for a number of years that actually got purchased last year, is now owned by ALS Global. So I am fully focused on the Williams, and going to take all the skills I've learned and apply them to the Williams project.
Well, you know, I worked with a guy named Bob Singh for a number of years, and he sounded a lot like you. He had a geological consulting business that helped companies with their core logging, and sounds like you're following in a similar footsteps. And he was pretty instrumental in making Great Bear a big success. So I like the sounds of your experience there, Mike.
Yeah, well, hopefully it can translate into success like Bob's, because he's done a heck of a job. So kudos to him.
Super smart guy, and you're giving me the evidence that you're doing it the right way, Mike. So congratulations to you and your team. And was there anything you wanted to close on?
I think, you know, hitting on the team is a big thing. You know, nothing gets done by one person. It's a team of individuals, men and women, who go out there and work really hard. So yeah, I'd like to thank them as well, because you know, in this part of the world, the weather and the obstacles sometimes can seem insurmountable. So yeah, good on everybody, and all the people that are working in this gold belt.
I better
Keep up.
ask. I better ask you about the financing. How well financed are you?
So right now we got about 4 million in working capital. So
Yeah.
we have just over 3 million in cash, and we got about $1 million in marketable securities. So
Uh-huh.
we're good for 2023. Now, hopefully we can get our share price up here and maybe do a bit of a small flow through financing to help fund some additional drilling. But in terms of going to the market, I don't really have any immediate plans at our current share price and
Well, that's
market cap.
pretty interesting. A $4 million in between cash and marketable securities, and you have a $6.72 million valuation.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting.
I think that encapsulates the risk reward potential. And on that note, Mike, let me. How many? You have a bunch of pending holes, so you should have a good news flow.
Yeah, so I would anticipate probably 3 to 4 news releases off of the 2022 drill program that are in the hopper. We're also working on trying to sell some of our other assets, in particular some of our projects in British Columbia. So we're working on trying to monetize those, because right now we're, like you said, we're not really getting any value for them in the market. So might as well get some money for them, or something like
You
that.
got that right. Are you going to the PDAC to shop your story to all the big investors?
You know what? I've gone to the PDC every year for many years, but I'm recently a new family man, so I'm going to be sitting this one out, but I'll be back next year for sure.
Well, I got a bunch of friends going to the PDAC, so I'll see if I can get your story out there through this video, indirectly to the PDAC.
Great. Well,
Because
thanks,
I'm
Allan.
not going either.
Yeah, well, you know what? The one thing you can count on about PDAC is the weather's going to be horrible. So there you go.
A lot nicer in Mexico, Mike.
I bet.
All righty. Let me wrap it up and we'll talk at the other end. How's that, Mike?
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Allan.
So there you go, folks. Newfound Gold has been a big success. They currently have over $800 million valuation. And the reason for that is they've drilled into a lot of high grade to bonanza grade gold on this Appleton fault. And Golden Ridge has the same Appleton fault going through its property. Mike was kind enough to talk to us about all the secondary faulting, which is important. And the gold occurrences, that's the one that really got me interested, because I noticed a big concentration of gold occurrences on their property and where Newfound Gold has made all their discoveries. And then you look at the valuation of the company, as Mike said, they've got about almost half of their valuation is in cash, and then over that with marketable securities. So they're in a good position. They've done a lot of good work in their initial drilling, scout drilling. And I'm quite optimistic that they've got something serious here. So as always, my shows are for information purposes only. It's important for you to do your homework, speak with your financial advisors, and I would invite you to go check out their website, look at their news, look at their corporate presentations, and try to understand more about this company, because I think it offers a very compelling risk-reward potential. And on that note, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.